Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of On the Clock. I am Joe. This is Toilets to Titles, and welcome back to me because it's been almost 2 weeks since I've dropped one of these on the Clock videos. And this is where I am reviewing my top 10 picks for each position in this upcoming 2022 NFL draft class. And so it's open to somewhat of this is obviously it's my opinion. I think there would be very much a lot of consolidated opinion on most of these picks. But again, especially when we get towards like the back end of the top 10, it's just it definitely opinion based. And I think my last two or three, some may disagree with. But I'll get into the reasons of why I included these people. Like the last two or three at the back of the top 10. I'll explain why I included them. But there's like two other honorable mentions that I will post and I will talk about in another video in the future. Because after I go through each position group, quarterback, wide receiver, safety, edge, defensive tackle, et cetera, et cetera. After I'm done with those, I'll definitely have another video or two afterwards talking about my honorable mentions and other guys, other people, other players you want to look out for. So, but right now we're doing the top 10 players, defensive tackle, aka interior defensive lineman. And like the rest of this draft, especially on the defensive side of the ball, this is a deep, deep class. So I'm excited to review these guys. Before we get to the content, let's get the bells and whistles out of the way. Hit that like and subscribe button if you can. We'd really appreciate it. Give us a 5-star Apple review if you have the time. It takes no more than 30 seconds and it helps us out a lot. Where you can follow the show: Apple Podcast, YouTube, Podbean, Spotify, and Facebook, where we have two pages. The first one, of course, is Toilets and Titles. The other one is called When a Family Breaks, which is our Facebook page dedicated to the trading of sports memorabilia. Also, you can go to patreon.com/toilets to titles to learn how you can further support the show. And last but not least, we have our own website, toiletstotitles.com, where you're going to find all of our videos, articles, tons of fantasy, NFL, NCAA football, and draft content. Check it out. We've got like 15 members here, Toilets and Titles now, and we all bring something to our show, to our platform. Whether it's I mostly do videos, some people do just mostly articles, and some people do both. Some of the contributors do both. So we always have tons of stuff there. Check it out. I'm really proud of that website. Anyway, let's dive into the content. That's why you're here, right? Okay, first guy we're going to talk about is Demarvin Lille, defensive tackle out of Texas A&M, 6'4", 290 pounds. First thing you're going to notice that you should notice about pretty much any top end defensive tackle is that they're all really, really tall. And Demarvin Lille brings that. He's 6'4", 290 pounds. Now it's funny. This is a guy who I remember for gosh, like over the past like 8 months, he was consistently in the top five. Considered to be like a top five pick in this upcoming draft. I always felt like that was ridiculous, just given the depth, the overall depth of this draft class. I never felt like that was going to happen. And sure enough, you look at like most boards now, he's probably down at 15. And I think that's a sweet spot for him. This guy is super, super talented, Demarvin Lille. As I have here in the yellow bar, my notes. This guy is athletic and versatile, and you're going to see that's a common theme amongst many of these players in my top 10, especially like the top five. But they're all versatile and they're outstandingly athletic for big men. This guy is his versatility is that he can play defensive tackle. He can also play the edge. He's got the explosiveness to play the edge. He's going to be an interior defensive lineman, but I would assume that whoever drafts this guy is going to have big plans to move him all around the line because he can do it all. He can also play in a 4-3 or a 3-4 defense. Obviously, if you play in a 3-4 defense, you can also play in a 4-3 defense. It's not true the other way around. Not every 4-3 interior defensive lineman is going to be successful in a 3-4. But if you're successful in a 3-4, you're going to be uber successful in a 4-3. Demarvin Lille, wherever he goes, expect big plans for this guy because he's very, very versatile. He's got super long arms as well. He's got polished pass rush moves. This guy is plug and play as you'd expect with any first round pick, especially a pick in the top half of the first round. And I'd be surprised if he drops lower than 15 in the upcoming draft. But he's a specimen. He's a special player. Whoever gets this guy is going to be very, very happy. Okay, the next guy, Trayvon Walker. Okay, you might be thinking, Joe, Trayvon Walker, he's an edge or he's a defensive end, and you're not wrong. Here's the thing: is that he played both defensive tackle and edge consistently at Georgia in the NCAA, as opposed to Demarvin Lille. Demarvin Lille played mostly defensive tackle and he played some defensive end. Trayvon Walker played both pretty damn evenly. I think he started off as a defensive tackle at Georgia, and then he moved over to edge or defensive end, very successful at both. He easily could have been. I could have included him in my defensive end slash edge video, but I held off. I decided to keep him with the defensive tackles, just because that's mostly what he played throughout most of his career at Georgia. It was, I believe, in his final year where he was playing defensive end or edge. But Trayvon Walker is a special player. Again, 6'5", super tall, 275 pounds. Uh, a little on the light side for a guy you'd really want that you would think be playing on the interior. And I think that's why a lot of people, a lot of experts, are counting him as a defensive end. I'm keeping him as defensive tackle because he was really good at it at Georgia as well. And this guy, like DeMarvin Leal, whoever drafts this guy, and this guy is first round talent, big time. Whoever drafts this guy is going to be super happy because he's going to give them a boatload of versatility. He's super athletic. This is a guy who can drop into coverage, actually. I'm not saying ideally you want this guy dropping into coverage, you know, all the time, but he can do it just fine for a big guy. That's how versatile and athletic this guy is. He's a special player. He's a name that people, this is such a sexy draft class, especially on the defensive side of the ball. It's just so deep. There's wherever you look, there's quality players like every single position, and there's like 50 players. There's 32 picks in the first round. There's probably 50 players that could easily go in the first round. It just depends on what type of player a team wants or needs. And Trayvon Walker could wind up going like I think top 15 easily. He could go top 15, and I think most people will be kind of surprised by it because they might not be familiar with his name. On the defensive end of the side of the ball, people are usually thinking about when they think of edge or defensive end, they're thinking of Aiden Hutchinson, Thibodeau, maybe a Jabo, a few other players. And when you think of defensive tackles, a lot of times people are thinking of Demarvin Lille, Jordan Davis, who we're about to get into, and a few other players. Trayvon Walker is an awesome player, and whoever gets this guy is going to be really, really good. His defensive coordinator is going to be psyched because he's going to be able to line this guy pretty much up wherever he wants. You get this guy, you're going to be super happy. Trayvon Walker, he is from Georgia. Take note of that, Georgia, because we got another player from Georgia. There's going to be a theme in this video here. A second player from Georgia, Jordan Davis, 6'6", 340 pounds. The thing that stands out most about this guy is this guy's strength. This dude is super, super strong. He takes on double teams. You want an interior lineman who can occupy more than one offensive lineman at a time. Jordan Davis is your man. This guy is an anchor. He does not move. I have here in my yellow notes, immovable object. That is what he is. You're not moving Jordan Davis back. Period. You just got to hope that you don't let him push you back. He disengages from blocks well. He's always pushing the offensive lineman back. He's got quick feet. He's disruptive behind the line. You're not pushing this guy back. You better hope that the best you can do is to not let him penetrate the line, your offensive line, because that's what he does. He's a penetrator. He's a disruptor. This guy is awesome. Georgia's defense this year is why they won the national championship. It was not because of their offense. It was because of their outstanding defense. And I still think Alabama missing their top two wide receivers who were elite wide receivers in college. I think that also played a sizable part in them losing that game. But don't get me wrong, I'm not taking anything away from Georgia. Their defense was that good. It was phenomenal. Georgia's got conceivably 8 players on defense that could go in the first round, at least 6, maybe 6 players, maybe as many as 8 that could go in the first round this year on the defensive side of the ball. That's how crazy stacked Georgia's defense was. Anyway, enough about Georgia. Jordan Davis, second player out of Georgia in the top 3 actually right now that I have. Phenomenal player. This guy's going to go. I think he's going to go in the back end of the first round. I think most drafts he would actually go earlier. But again, it's such a stacked draft class all over the place. Whether it's offensive lineman, wide receiver, cornerback, linebacker, edge, that he might slip to the second round. If you get this guy in the second round, run to the podium, put his name in because this guy is a steal. He is phenomenal. Okay, let's move on to Perrion Winfrey out of Oklahoma. Another top guy. This guy's phenomenal as well. 6'3", 290 pounds. Another guy just like Jordan Davis. Strong, 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 strong. That's what stands out most about this guy. You're not pushing this guy back. Another guy who anchors really, really well. Uh, like the rest of these guys. In the top 10 here, I have for the defensive tackles. He's got really good length. I mean, they're all big men. He's got really good length and leverage. It's a good combination between the two. He's also twitchy and explosive. He's another penetrator. This is a guy who's not just, anchoring up and stalling the offensive line. He gets in between the guard and the tackles, the guard and the center. He's a penetrator, Perrion Winfrey. He's got the lateral ability. He's got really good lateral ability, and he shoots into gaps. He's strong, and this is a guy who, if your defense plays a 3-4 defense, if your defense is a three, like I'm a Giants fan myself, they've been playing a 3-4 defense for the past few years. And I think it's going to stay that way. This guy can play nose tackle. And listen, there are plenty of players, I guess, who can play nose tackle, but there aren't many who can do it really, really well. Let's say like a Richard Seymour, for example. Richard Seymour is I don't know if he's in the Hall of Fame yet, but he will be one day if he's not. Nose tackle extraordinaire. This is a guy who not just, ate up the run, but consistently got through the offensive line to the quarterback. At least if he didn't sack the quarterback, he was harassing the quarterback all the time. Perry and Winfrey can do that as a nose tackle in a 3-4. So this guy, you want to keep your eyes on this guy. I expect him to be a second round pick and a pretty high second round pick too. But like I said, obviously if he's playing in a 4-3, you know, he's gonna be kicking ass as a 4-3 um, defensive tackle. You put him as a nose tackle in a 3-4. I think he's going to give you everything you want from a real nose tackle in a 3-4 defense, and that is taking up multiple offensive linemen at a time, double teams, and still getting to the quarterback, if not sacking the quarterback, at least bringing pressure up the middle. This guy's a penetrator, Perrion Winfrey. Remember that name. If your team gets this guy in the second round, be happy. Okay, here we go. The theme continues. The third player from Georgia. Okay, Devonte Wyatt, third player from Georgia. 6'3", 315 pounds. This dude is stout. He's got your combination of strength, bulk, height, a length, everything you want. This guy's got it. Again, another player. You're not moving this guy. He absorbs blocks in the run game. So again, you're not pushing this guy back. You better just hope that he's not penetrating against you if you're an offensive lineman. He's twitchy and explosive. Uh, Enough. I mean, it's not like as twitchy and explosive as say, Jordan Davis or Perrion Winfrey, but he's damn good enough to get in, shoot through the gaps, and harass the quarterback. So here's another defensive tackle who not only absorbs, a defensive tackle, in my opinion, uh, I think it's pretty obvious. First and foremost, they have to be able to stop the run. Okay, um, even in a 3-4 line where it's just a three-man line, you got to be able to stop the run. You have to close the you have to close the running lanes, stop that run, don't get pushed off the line by the offensive line. He does that in spades, but he's also a penetrator. So if you can get the penetration out of your interior defensive lineman, you're cooking. You are cooking. This guy is really good. This is such a good class. It's really great. I love reviewing these guys. Okay, our next pick, Phidarian Mathis. Phidarian Mathis out of Alabama, 6'4", 312 pounds. This guy is awesome. Um, Unfortunately, I believe, if I recall correctly, I could be wrong, but I think I recall this correctly. He suffered a serious injury in the national championship game against Alabama. It might have even been like a torn ACL. Don't quote me on that. I'm probably wrong. Maybe it wasn't that serious, but I remember he had some sort of injury that I believe was enough to knock him down the boards. Just because he's probably not going to be plug and play at the beginning of this year. But don't get me wrong. If you draft Darian Mathis long term, even by the end of this year, even by the end of the 2022 season, this guy's going to be paying dividends. He's phenomenal interior defensive lineman. Again, long and big. I shouldn't even have these in my notes. All these guys are long and big. Long and big, explosive and powerful. He gets through the holes and disrupts. He's great against the run. And he's also, again, he's another athlete. He's an athletic big man. And so he's actually, this is a guy who not all interior defensive linemen can do this, but Mathis can. He can run with his own blocks. So meaning that, for example, offensive line like San Francisco, for example, the 49ers love to run zone schemes. So a lot of their big reason why their running game is always successful, and the 49ers can always just plug and play whatever running back they have, whether it's their a late round draft pick or some guy off the streets. They're very successful because they run a great zone blocking scheme on offense. When they're running the ball, the offensive linemen are usually running as well, taking their blocks across the field with them, trying to get to the second level of the linebackers, block them as well, and give those running backs a multiple running lanes. Not too many defensive tackles have the athleticism to keep up with that. Phidarian Mathis can. He's phenomenal. Again, someone else who should go in the second round. He might even slip to the third round, just given the overall depth of the talent in this draft class, as well as the injury that he suffered. And again, I forgot. I should have looked into this before I did this video. I forgot to do that. But the injury he suffered, I think he's going to have him drop just a little bit. But long term, he should be fine. He should be fine. But this guy's awesome. Darian Mathis out of Alabama. Okay, Travis Jones, Connecticut. Now we're getting to the guys who are probably more like third round picks. Travis Jones, Connecticut. Most draft classes, Travis Jones could be going somewhere like in the middle of the second round. This draft class, Travis Jones will probably go like in the third round. You're getting great value here, though. He's out of Connecticut, 6'4", 333 pounds, 333 pounds. That's a lot of man. He's big and long. He's disruptive. He's great at plugging holes. Strong, great. He's got a strong and great anchor. This is a guy who almost never gets pushed back. You're not pushing this guy back. He's got his hands are really good. They're strong and they're fast, and so it leads to him being able to disengage blocks from the offensive lineman. It makes him very successful, and that also leads to him knifing through holes. So Travis Jones is a bit of a penetrator. He's pretty solid at that. My concern is that he played at UConn, which is not obviously the biggest football program. It's a respectable program. It's respectable, but we're not talking Georgia, Oklahoma, Alabama, Notre Dame here. We're talking Connecticut. So there's definitely a difference there. So, I'm a little nervous about that in terms of the competition he's gone up against, but I have no doubt this guy is going to be a successful interior defensive lineman. Not as good as the other ones that I discussed so far, but you get this guy in the third round, you got good value. Okay, let's move on to Logan Hall out of Houston, 6'5", 278 pounds. That sounds more like a defensive end to me, and I love that height. So this guy is versatile. He plays multiple techniques. He is. You can line this guy up many different ways along the defensive line. Um, I would not be surprised at all if the team that drafts this guy winds up, rotating him all over the line, not as a nose tackle, but as just interior defensive lineman, or if they switch him out to defensive end sometimes. I wouldn't be surprised. This guy's got the size, and he's not too heavy, and he's got the athleticism to do it too, I believe. Not consistently, he doesn't have the athleticism to consistently play on the outside, but he's got enough to where you can mix things up and throw him out there as a defensive end. But he's got excellent burst. He's a penetrator who disrupts the running game. So first and foremost, like I said, that's the first thing you want from a defensive tackle or interior defensive lineman. They got to be able to play the run, and he doesn't just play the run well. He's a disruptor. He will get behind the offensive line and give you a tackle for loss. He's very good. So obviously, as I have in my notes, he's very strong and long. He's got enough twitch to get past the offensive lineman and chase the QB. He's got the athleticism to do it as well. Logan Hall out of Houston, like him a lot. Now you're talking. Now we're going to get to guys who are probably more like early fourth round picks. Matthew Butler out of Tennessee, 6'3", 299 pounds, long, athletic, big. This guy could wind up being a steal. You get this guy in the fourth round, even like the second half of the third round. This guy could wind up being a long-term steal. He is athletic, so he's not just your big man who's almost 300 pounds, 6'3". He's really athletic. So he's going to give you a lot of versatility too. Can play different techniques. Could line up against, just not just head to head against the center, but he could also play different gaps in between center and guard, between guard and tackle. He can give you a lot of looks. He's got for a big man, he's got elite explosiveness. So I think this guy's ceiling is really good. I think his floor is great. I think his floor is like a, you know, plug and play sometime this year, maybe if not in the beginning of the year, second half of the year, plug and play starter. And I think he's got the ceiling to be a Pro Bowler down the road. I like him a lot. Matthew Butler out of Tennessee. He's got great elite explosiveness that I think really raises his ceiling. He's got great lateral agility to cover different run lanes, um, and and he's strong. He's strong enough to push the offensive lineman back. So, and I also in my the rest of my notes, versatile, quick enough to play some edge. So, again, versatility. It's a theme here. These top 10 picks here that I picked for my top 10 versatility. And defenses these days, they're looking for versatility because this is the NFL has become such an offensive focused sport game these days in the NFL that they need defensive linemen who can do, or not just defensive linemen, they need defensive players who can do multiple things. I think almost to a fault, in my opinion. I mean, I don't mind at all having a player who's just to say, for example, an excellent run stuffer. I don't, if he's one of my interior defensive linemen, he can't get to the quarterback, but he's great at stopping the run. I'm okay with that, especially in a 4-3 defense. I'm okay with that. If they're just exceptional at one thing. But these guys are really good at more than one thing. They're all versatile. That's what defensive coordinators and head coaches are looking for. Matthew Butler is one of those types of players. So if you get this guy, he'll probably wind up going the back end of the third round, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's there early in the fourth round and he's going to go. You got to steal if you get Matthew Butler in the fourth round. Okay, my last pick, and this one was really pick. This one was really tough because I decided to go with Chris Hinton because I'm seeing him mocked ahead of the two other guys I actually liked more. And this is my list, it's my opinion, but I couldn't decide between Zachary Carter out of Florida and um and John Ridgway out of Arkansas. I couldn't decide between those two. And I actually like them more. So since I couldn't decide between those two, I decided to put Chris Hinton in my top 10 because most big boards have him ahead of those two guys that I like more anyway. So Chris Hinton, you won. Chris Hinton out of Michigan, you made my top 10. 6'4", 310 pounds. This dude's got size all day long. Size, size, size. He's got the height. He's got the bulk. He also has the strength too. So he's got width, density, and a strong base to anchor well. You're again another guy you're not really moving if you're an offensive lineman. That's good. He's stout, but his strength is really what screams about this guy. But he's got pretty good lateral agility to cover gaps against the runs. He's definitely, in my opinion, if he goes ahead of the fourth round, I think that's a reach, in my opinion. With Chris Hinton, even with Zachary Carter and John Ridgway, if they went ahead of the fourth round, especially in this draft class, I'd be shocked. I think that would be a reach. When you get this guy in the fourth round, be happy because he's going to be a solid, stout starter sometime this year. Um, he plays multiple techniques, so I think he's going to start soon. This guy is plug and play. Now, like any player coming out of college, when we say plug and play, he can, I think, legitimately play well at some point this year. I shouldn't say plug and play because that would mean that he's starting from day one. I really mean some point his rookie year, this guy is going to be a starter depending upon how good the defense is that he's going to. But he's most likely going to be a starter at some point this year. But like any young player, there's always stuff to learn. And Hinton's got things to learn, but I think you can put him on the field as a starter at some point his rookie year, and you're going to be fine. But Chris Hinton, if you get this guy in the fourth round, again, be happy because he's a darn good player. So, but I will have, like I said, the other two names that I mentioned who actually I have ahead of Hinton, but I couldn't decide between the two of them. Zachary Carter out of Florida and John Ridgway. I will be talking about them in a later video when I'm covering players that didn't make my top 10 lists, like the honorable mentions, if you will, regardless of position. So anyway, That's my top 10 list. Hope you enjoyed it. Before you go, Twitter handles for me and all of my colleagues here at 12 and Titles. There's like 15 of us now. There may be even maybe be like two or three that I'm missing that I gotta add here, but there's like 15 of us now. Please follow us all. Everyone adds a lot. They're just a great group of people. I love working with them. And everyone, like I said, every one of us brings something different to the table. So we even got like three or four guys. We've got four guys. Four of our team members are down in Australia, and they're really big into NFL football. They're really big into fantasy football. So they've got their own show going on. A lot of times you'll be able to catch it Saturday or Sunday mornings. It's called Dynasty Down Under. A lot of fun, but we are a global entertainment enterprise here, baby. And just a friendly reminder, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, hit that bell, give us that 5-star Apple review because we deserve it. Anyway, this is Joe. I'm out of here, and I'll catch you soon with another breakdown of another position group. Take care, everyone. Have a great Saturday.